A lot of adults are still treated like children, not because they're immature, but because their parents never released control. Let's talk about adult children and adult parents. Yeah, so in a black household, respect got confused with authority. Parents come over, they rearranging things, they questioning your decision, undermining your spouse, and they use "I'm your mother" or "you need to respect your father" as a shutdown. But them phrases right there, they were made to guide a child. They wasn't made to dominate an adult. And that's toxic. In fact, it's very toxic. You know, you can't grow if somebody keeps pulling rank. You paying bills, you raising your children, but you still getting parented. That's unhealthy. That's an unhealthy relationship because the relationship is no longer adult to child no more. It's now adult to adult. And that's the way it's supposed to be carried. If it's still adult to a child, that kills marriages, that kills home. And when adult parents with adult children, when they don't know how to shift roles, they become a third voice in the house. And ain't no marriage gonna survive that constant parental input and all that. So yeah, it's unhealthy and it's toxic. And one dangerous thing too, it can bring resentment. I'm gonna tell you adult parents this, right? With adult children, I should say. Um, that's dangerous. It can bring resentment. And a lot of y'all like to manipulate when you overstep your boundaries instead of realizing you're overstepping your boundaries. You like to get on the phone and say, yeah, such and such put me out their house, or such and such said this to me, but you never realized you were overstepping your boundaries. The relationship is now adult to adult. It's no longer adult to children. So just like your neighbor next door, that's an adult, you an adult. You talk to them with a certain respect. Same thing with your adult children. That's a healthy relationship. They have every right to create boundaries, to put boundaries around them, boundaries in their own house, boundaries with their own children, boundaries with your relationship. You don't have access to everything because once they reach a certain age, you raise them to a certain age. When they become adults, you no longer have the access that you want to have. They have their own life. So you got to let go. You have to let go. Because if you don't, it's unhealthy and it's toxic. And if you don't let go, it's going to cause a silent resentment. You're going to wonder why, oh, my child don't call me no more. And you're going to be on the phone telling the family members, oh, they stopped talking to me. Or, he put me out their house. Or they don't invite me to this, that, and the third. But you're not realizing the way you're going about the relationship is toxic and unhealthy. Yeah, so a balance need to be created. The words say honor your father and mother, right? It doesn't say surrender your adulthood. And Genesis 2 and 24, it say leave and cleave. Ephesians 6, it say children. It's important not to miss those things. It say children. So honor is respect. Control is fear. When a child become an adult, right? Advice is optional. I read this book. It was called Keep Your Mouth Shut and Your Door Open. And I actually think every parent should read this book because it gave me a whole new perspective on parenthood. It talks about the adult child and the adult parent and even raising teenagers, right? Like I said, it gave me a whole new perspective on parenthood. When a child become an adult, advice is optional. And just off the title alone, it was saying like, don't overstep your boundaries, especially with adult children. If you're an adult parent, with that advice, let them come to you. That way, it won't be no resentment when you just constantly just spitting at them, it's going to feel like an attack because they feel like they need to find their own way. And even though you know better, still keep your mouth shut. Let them come to you for the advice. Because if you just constantly feel like you need to tell them because you think you know better, it's going to cause them to rebel against you. It's going to cause them resentment and things like that. So when a child becomes an adult, advice is optional. When a child becomes an adult, presence becomes invite. Don't just barge because you the parent. Don't just barge over their house. Boundaries, you have to respect their boundaries. It's not your house anymore. That's their house. They're not living with you. You can't just pop up, come in, and start telling them how to raise their kids. Like, again, even though you think you know better or you have more wisdom or you're more experienced at life, you have to respect boundaries. If not, it's toxic, it's unhealthy, as we spoke of before. So presence become invite. Wait for them to come to you. Like if they fell in with their children, wait for them to come to you before you give your input or before you just pop up. You can't just pop up at somebody's house, just because that's your daughter or that's your son. Or same thing with speaking on their spouse. You can't just do that because that's your daughter, that's your son. Your presence become invited. You have to wait for them to invite you. When a child become an adult, authority, it becomes a mutual respect. Like I said earlier, you don't talk to your neighbors a certain way because that's an adult to adult relationship. You got to look at your adult child the same way now. Even though you carried them, even though you raised them, their child is now an adult. So the relationship is adult to adult now. So, and how that look, that's healthy because you got an adult son, adult daughter, you know, um, things like we can go to a basketball game together, you know, we can talk about doctor's appointment, adult things like that. We could talk about health. We could talk about finance. It's no longer you need to do this or that's unhealthy. That's not the way that's supposed to go. That's toxic when you're moving in that way. So authority is the relationship is now on an adult adult basis. That's how we handle that. And again, if I'm an adult, you an adult. If I need your advice, I'm going to come to you. You got to give me that respect. Yeah, a healthy parent, they lead you to live your own life, not stay under theirs. So what needs to happen is you got to start speaking up and speaking up without disrespect. But you have to start speaking up. Example, mom, I love you, but this is my house. These are my kids. This is my responsibility. This is my family. No simple as that. Or, pops, I got it. You taught me right. I know what I'm doing. I got it. But you got to start speaking up because boundaries, it don't break families up. Silence do. If you don't say nothing, that's what's going to cause the resentment. If you don't say nothing, boundaries will forever be broken. If you don't say nothing, the relationship going to continue to be toxic and unhealthy. So my adult children, y'all have to start speaking up. Y'all have to start setting these boundaries. And my adult parents with adult children, y'all have to start respecting boundaries. Yeah, so a real parent, they don't need control to feel honored. Because if you raise them right, you don't have to run their life. It's cool, Ralph. It's been another episode of Cool Talk.